Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Friday App Clinic. This week, after enduring Ian's constant switches to himself on producer cam, we've decided to make life a little easier and just have him on the show. So welcome to the App Clinic, Ian.
Thank you very much. I'm also joining just because this week's topic is podcast players, and I am an inveterate podcast listener. I really enjoy podcasts. Although I've also, because of the let's just say the characteristics of the apps that we're looking at this week and just how I feel about them, I've also brought my friend Big Pete. And anytime I get so frustrated that I just want to drive my phone through my head because the podcast player UI is so bad, I'll be taking a drink.
So expect Ian to be pretty drunk by the end of today's episode. That is a spoiler alert.
Exactly.
So like Ian said, we're going to look at podcast apps today. We've got a wide variety of apps to choose from. I think we have something like eight or nine apps that were nominated in the moderator queue this week.
There were far more than that. It's just that we had to draw the line somewhere.
I think we passed out somewhere around the 8 or 9 mark. So that's as far as we're going to try and go. 12.
Yeah, I've got 12, but you guys can do as many as you like.
I don't think we're going to get through 12.
We made Daniel make title cards for 12. Thanks, Daniel.
Thanks. We'll probably
welcome, guys.
We've also got Daniel, who's doing the engineering for us today. We've got App Clinic veteran Fred Chung, who's going to be helping us out as our producer. So if you have any questions, comments, anything that you want to pass on to us during the show, please let us know in the comment stream for the G+ event, and Fred will pass those along to us.
Yeah, let's switch to the producer cam, shall we? Fred Cam!
Fred Cam, coming up.
Woohoo!
Fred Cam! Excellent. And you've even got the shocked and surprised producer on camera look down. Perfect. Excellent. All right, so let's. We've got somewhere up to 12 apps to look at today. So let's kick off. Let's get started.
Right. So just to get started here, let's talk about what a podcast player should do. Right.
Absolutely.
What do we use podcast players for?
Well, I mean, really, I like to think of podcast players as basically being music players. Except instead of music, it's all spoken word. Mm-hmm. And my idea of kind of the perfect version of the music player is something which is going to let you listen to both your own music and the radio, switching between them. Right. Now, I don't think that media player quite exists yet, so that's another wish list for you guys.
Sure.
But for podcasts, that should be possible, right? Podcasts I've listened to?
I think it should. Now, let me just add something, because I want to take this up one level. Let's not talk about just the features. Let's talk about how we use it. And for me, it's in the car.
Indeed. I think that's probably the most common use case for podcast players is going to be people who are commuting, whether it's in your car or in the train. And we're in California here, so I've had to get used to driving to work again.
I think that for me, anytime that I have the ability to sit down and read something, I would much rather read. Mm-hmm. So the only time I want to podcast is when I have to keep my eyes on something else, like the road.
Yeah, it's generally considered helpful.
With that in mind, I've noticed that a great many of these podcast players don't actually work very well in the car.
That's an interesting point. I mean, let's take it up another level and say, well, what is the perfect podcast app? What is it that you'd really like to see, which would cause you not to drink? Because, frankly, if podcast apps make you drink, and you like to use podcast players while you're driving, this is not a good message.
Believe me, the California Department of Transportation has actually been very clear with me on that point.
I am not surprised.
Absolutely. So why don't we take a look at that list?
Please, yeah. Could you put that list up for us, Daniel?
Yes. Notice that Angry Baby wants very much for podcast players to fit into these particular, what would you call them, recommendations? Right?
Yeah, absolutely. Best practices or it's a wish list, right? It's exactly. A developer wish list for podcast apps.
Absolutely. We put Angry Baby up there because that's kind of how I felt after looking at 12 of these this morning. There are some good ones. There actually are some very good ones. I don't think we found a perfect one.
No, but I think if you took all the best things from each of these, you'd have a pretty kick-ass app. Yeah. So I think that's hopefully where we'll get to by the end of this, is to encourage each of the developers here to build apps which make all of them awesome.
But notice that part of what makes a great podcast is just what makes a great synchronized app in general. Anytime that you're bringing information from the internet to the user's device. That should be as transparent as possible. Reto had a great talk at Google I/O about making apps magical and making it feel like you're always connected to this wonderful well of information at very high speeds, even though we know that even a very fast mobile connection isn't always 100% reliable or speedy. So the first thing that a podcast player needs to do is make sure that it has good synchronization, something that's transparent in the background, something that the user doesn't have to worry about or futz with. And I think that some of these podcast apps did a reasonably good job of that. Others, maybe not so much. Why don't we take a look at some of the first ones here? Let's say, for instance, DoggCatcher. You want to?
Let's have a look at DoggCatcher. DoggCatcher is a really popular one. So I've asked people a few times because we actually have a podcast of our Android Developer Live office hours, which we put out there, and we actually put all of the Google I/O sessions as podcasts as well. And so I asked people, what are the podcast apps that you recommend? And DoggCatcher was definitely amongst the very top. So this is an app that a lot of people like. Can we get the tablet on screen as well now? Perfect.
So, DoggCatcher starts out with a quick set of configuration options, and I'm fine with this. Okay, fine. I want to keep a couple episodes of each podcast. All right, I guess I'd better accept the EULA. Hopefully, it doesn't commit me to anything too terrible. And then it shows feeds, playing, audio, video, news. So I somewhat like that. Okay, I've got some feeds.
It's reasonable. You got a nice tablet UI for your tablet, so I'm liking that.
Let me go ahead and click on something and play it. Well, now that's interesting. It just told me no episode is loaded and playlist is empty. Well, obviously I just clicked on this, right?
Absolutely.
Now I do like one thing about DoggCatcher is what's the most obvious set of controls on this? What is the thing that catches your eye more than anything else?
I would like to say that it's the play, fast forward, etc. buttons along the bottom.
I agree with you completely. Would it surprise you to know that many podcast apps do not make those easy to access?
Well, having just looked at 12, no, it wouldn't surprise me, but it may surprise some of you.
One of the things that you should probably think about when you design a user interface is what will your users spend the most time doing? And if your application is listening to podcasts, you might think that listening would be one of the things that you want to have front and center. But some of these apps don't have transport buttons readily accessible. Some of them are too small. Some of them move all over the screen.
Excellent.
And I found at least one where it was hidden away in a context menu.
A context menu to be able to play. Interesting.
Yeah.
Very
now,
interesting.
Speaking of context menus, we've got a bunch on here. I don't know. No, what do these do? Let's find out.
Oh, wow. What doesn't it do?
There's a lot of context there. Now, I guess the question I have here is, if I have expressed some interest in a podcast, and even to the point of maybe wanting to play that, why isn't it downloading that podcast right now?
Absolutely.
Why would I have to ask it to download?
Indeed, and I think it's a kind of a key feature here with, there's two things that Ian's mentioned, which I think is a theme across a lot of these, and one is that this UI is really busy. There is a huge amount of information to try and consume here to understand, what you're supposed to do next. And so it takes you a really long time to go from clicking the app launcher to being able to use the app for the purpose which it was specifically designed.
Now let's talk about, on that note,
please.
Let's talk about my very least favorite part of this UI. It's a button you see all the time, and it needs to die. But before we talk about this button, let me take a drink.
Ian, you want to try a different?
Ian's mic is causing us problems. All right.
Alrighty then.
Depending on how bad it is, there may be people at home forced to drink, but hopefully this is a little better.
How's this?
Sounds okay to me. Fred, what do you think?
Just go, keep going.
All right.
You'll let us
Yeah,
know?
Fred's on a time delay, right?
In 15 seconds, he'll tell you whether or not you're annoying.
Yes. Well, let's just get... You can tell, by the way, that I'm usually a lot more lubricated when we do the game show, because as time goes by, I stumble over my words less and less. It's the power of alcohol. Can you guess what button I'm talking about, Reto?
Well, gosh. If I had to choose a button, it would be this button here.
That's a bad button. That is a bad button, but you don't see that in everything.
An even less favorite button.
I have a button that needs to die 1,000 horrible deaths. Actually, I would say about maybe 15,000 because I bet that's how many apps use this button.
That's a lot of apps. Oh gosh. I mean, for a podcast app, I kind of want to see this button here die.
Bingo! Thank you very much, Reto. That is the correct answer. I'll be getting your prize later. Why, in God's name, would you have a synchronize button when you have the ability to stay in sync all the time?
Absolutely. Don't ask me to refresh. Just refresh. Be fresh. These days, there's really, I think, no reason why you would ever want a refresh button.
No. Certainly not front and center like that.
No, absolutely. There was a time where I could see it as something maybe in the overflow menu to force a refresh, but these days with things like Google Cloud Messaging, you can do those real-time pings. You can have a server which is checking these feeds and pinging your users directly when they have new content.
It's, in my mind, this button is a fix me because I screwed up button. You know, for some reason things didn't synchronize correctly, or for some reason I want to override my sync settings. So for instance, one really useful feature that a lot of these apps have is the ability to not synchronize until you get on Wi-Fi or until your device is plugged in.
Absolutely.
So you let it sync overnight or while it's sitting on your desk at work or whatever, and it doesn't eat up your bandwidth while you're driving the car. I love that. That's great.
Absolutely.
And if I need to override that, that's fine. But this isn't one of those times. We're on Wi-Fi. This tablet is plugged. Well, okay. I guess it's not plugged in. Maybe that. Maybe I'm being too hard.
But even still.
No, I'm not being too hard. So we want to be able to. I mean, we're going to press this button, and it is going to start synchronizing things. There we go. Updating feed.
There's a lot of use of toasts in this app as well to tell me what's going on. I have to tell you, I kind of think of toasts as it's the log.d statement of UI. It's I'm building an app. I want to make sure my services are running when I think they're running. I want to make sure that my errors are visible when I'm testing the app. Users should never see this.
It's a printf.
It's a printf. Exactly right. It's debugging when you don't have a debugger attached.
Now the other thing that I think is interesting is there is a download manager here, and I think that's a good thing. I always like to know what's going on. But notice that I can't get to it until I'm synchronizing. So
it's disabled. I see, yeah.
So now I can go here and I see, all right, there's a download queue. What's interesting here is, I've got something that says, okay, this is downloading and these will download soon. I can cancel it. What happens if I click here? What sort of context menu might it pop up? Apparently nothing.
Nothing. Interesting.
In fact, it turns out that this button, which to me says there's more stuff, you might want to click this because there's stuff you could see.
Well, in the previous menu, there was like 400 things you could do when you clicked on it.
I'm thinking to myself, oh my God, why don't I click that? I should probably click that button because I am missing something.
Please, just click it.
Why don't I click it? Yeah. What did it do? Okay, now there you go. That's interesting. Because if I clicked it in the right way, it would bring me this. But if I just click the
right next to it, it's cancel. I see.
It will cancel.
So this is a really interesting point. Could you show the audience the size of your finger? Put it next to a Galaxy Nexus for some scale. Ian has big fingers, and that's the reason why we have 48 pixel touch targets. Because when you try and get that thumb onto that touch target.
I don't have like Adrian Brody hands, but I don't think these are big fingers.
Well, they're not oversized fingers, and that's the key. You've got man hands, and you should be proud of that. And the point is, you can't hit those touch targets. And when you have a destructive action within touch range of another touch target, and your touch targets aren't big enough, you're going to get exactly the situation that Ian's been facing, where it's been canceling downloads instead of getting context.
Yep.
So good in practice.
Yeah, in fact, that was the first time I've seen that context menu out of like 10 downloads that I've canceled.
Exactly right.
Did not even realize it was there. Now, what I do like is now that I'm in this, I can start playing things, and if I don't like what I'm playing, I can skip it. And this is actually kind of a cool feature.
Interesting.
It will only respond to long presses, and that to me is a car feature.
Sure.
Like,
Yeah.
okay. Now I worry a little bit because what I really want to do is plug this into the Bluetooth audio in my car, so that I can use my steering wheel controls.
Sure, that
Right?
makes sense.
And I don't think it's elitist to say that anymore.
Not these days.
My mom's Hyundai has those steering wheel controls.
Sure.
Sure. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and long press it, and then it will. Well, what did it do? So it did
It's not
nothing.
clear. Yeah. Very little.
Right, but the reason it did nothing is because nothing is downloaded.
Ah, of course. You've only got the first thing which you're playing has been downloaded. Nothing else has.
Right. So I can play this, but this is actually one of the things that really bothers me is if you look at how this is set up. This is a feed management app, front and center.
Absolutely.
I think you'd like to manage your feeds. Now, the truth is, I don't want to manage my feeds. It reminds me of going to a music app and having the first thing it shows you be a store or a metadata editor or something like that. And a lot of music apps do that for various reasons, but I hate it because 9 times out of 10, what I really want to do when I enter one of these apps is play the content.
Listen to some content, absolutely.
It seems like playing the content should be the absolute most important thing. And if you don't have content to play, the first thing you should be doing is figuring out why there's no content to play and fixing that.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think this is the key. I mean, for most of your use cases here, what you want to do is open the app, hit play, get on with whatever you were doing, driving your car, presumably. And I have to say, it's the same thing when I get in the car first thing in the morning or when I'm on my way home and I listen to music. I just want to open the music app, hit play, and be done with it. At the very most, what you want to do is maybe choose the style of whatever it is you want to listen to, like a playlist or a theme. And it's the same here. For these sorts of podcast apps, it's exactly the same use case. It's a case of, I want to listen to a particular thing, I want to listen to a particular theme. And if I hit skip because I'm bored, I want it to play something. I don't want to then have to go through that management of the streams again.
The idea that the first thing I want to do is look at how my streams are doing is an immediate clue to me that this app can't manage its own stuff. When I opened it, now I was a DoggCatcher user for a while, and the reason that I finally left it is because every time I got into my car in the evening, I would start driving, I would open up my phone, and I'd realize that I have to pull over the side of the road and manage stuff.
Yeah, right.
That was a horrible experience. What I really want to be able to do is get directly to the content. And here's another point. Not only am I stuck managing the feeds as my central thing, but look at the other categories. We've got playing, and then we've got, so that makes sense.
Sure.
There's always a now playing
shortcut
somewhere.
to get to my what you're currently listening to.
Sure, although I'm not even certain that that's what we're currently listening to, but we can't actually play it because of the man.
Oh, yeah, no audio.
No audio. We've got audio back. Excellent.
Wow, that was quick.
Nicely
How
solved.
did that happen?
Thanks, Fred. Wow, we
Really?
should.
Did you fix it by unmuting your headset? Okay, I'm just asking.
My laptop.
Nice.
Excellent.
All right. So the other things we can look at here is we've got audio podcasts. Okay, that's somewhat useful. I mean, there's
Sure.
definitely a difference between audio and video. Like, you wouldn't want to listen to what we're doing right now in the car.
No, that's not going
Because-
to be particularly useful. All
You
the
wouldn't-
references to the stuff happening on screen, where's the benefit?
And you would not get the benefit of our faces, which are so pretty.
So there are pluses and minuses, is
And
what
then we've
we're
got
saying.
news. Now that's an interesting choice, right?
Wow, as a top-level tab destination. That's interesting.
Now, let's contrast this with something that is more, let's say, entertainment-oriented. So, Google Music, for instance. Now, I'm not going to say that Google Music is the best UI ever, but what Google Music does is very, very common, right? Now, see what we were talking about. Yes.
Oh, you don't want to add account.
I don't want to do that.
Select,
Ah.
theoretically.
So we could talk for hours about Google Music, but what I really wanted to show is how Google Music has a feature that every music app that I've used actually recently has, which is that you can browse by and put things together by albums, artists, songs, playlists, and genres.
Absolutely.
And recent, and of course there's a now playing feature as well.
It seems to me, and I may be jumping on your cue here, but these seem like reasonable navigation cues for a podcasting app as well.
Completely. I mean, they're so common and so well known. It's not just Google Music that does this. My stereo in the car does this.
Absolutely.
My mom's Hyundai does it, actually.
So Mum's got a pretty sweet Hyundai.
It's amazing, yeah. They've got some good products there. Not that I'd ever drive one.
Of course.
You know why? Because I work for Google and I have appearances. And they bring out like a hybrid electric.
Yeah,
and it'll probably be in it.
Probably fair, yeah.
Right. So let's go back to DoggCatcher.
DoggCatcher, yeah.
The truth is, I'm happy to know what my audio stuff is. Don't care about my video. Great
News.
that I've got news, but what I really want is to have a page that says news, comedy, sports, science, the genres that I actually listen to.
I think this is a really important point, because I think with podcasting apps like this, podcast players, there's this temptation, I think, as a developer, to develop for yourself, which is it's a good place to start, but if you want to have real wide-scale appeal, then you need to think a little bit beyond that. So think about how is someone who doesn't actually listen to podcasts, who isn't specifically looking for a podcast player, but they do want to listen to spoken audio content. Someone who would be listening to the radio, but they realize the radio is, not working for them. There's only NPR, and once they've listened to all of those, what's next? And so if you approach this the same way, you have genres, you have albums, playlists, all these sorts of things, then it's something they can be much more familiar with. And you can say, I want to listen to some political commentary. So you go to that and you see all of these different shows, not feeds or anything like that, but shows which have the kind of content that you want to consume.
And I want to, for instance, sometimes in the morning, I really want to listen to news, no matter where it's coming from. I get 5 minutes of the BBC in the morning, and then I get my CNN, whatever. I also want to be able to skip. Maybe the BBC's talking about sub-Saharan Africa today, and not interesting to me, so I'm going to skip over to whatever. In the evening, get in my car, I want to listen to comedy. I want to listen to, Smartest Man in the World or Radio 4 Comedy of the Week.
Absolutely.
So I want to be able to pick that genre and skip around inside of it without having to skip over all of the other genres that I have on the phone. So
Absolutely, yeah.
It's I think that's one thing that all of these podcast players are lacking to a certain extent.
Yeah, help with the discovery, because I think that's a lot of what the solutions that I've been seeing is apps which help you manage your existing collection of podcasts. So you already know what you want, you've already got them subscribed in Google Reader or something similar to that. And that's why you have this management becomes a really big portion of it, because it's all about managing the feeds you already have. You can create something much more powerful by aiding that discovery. It's like, well, I know that I want to listen to, comedy in the evening, so give me a bunch of comedy content. Make that easier for me.
I think somebody that does it actually pretty well is Stitcher, which I don't see on here, so we might not have picked it up. Their entire deal is about discovery. They also do streaming, so you don't have to worry about downloads at all.
Nice.
And management is easy too. They have an almost Pandora-like interface for discovery. The only problem with Stitcher is once you've got something set up, it's very, very confusing how to change it. I think they use like a star favorites type of thing, but then you have to star something and then do some extra stuff, and you got to check some boxes. So I would, we won't bring up Stitcher right now because we don't have it installed. It wasn't one of the top apps that we were looking at on the moderator, but I wanted to call it out as something that does discovery a little better. Now, one of the things that isn't quite as good at discovery is...
Hey guys, sorry. Reto, can you show me your mic? Maybe you can leave it on the...
Maybe leave it on the test?
See how it goes.
Sure.
Oh, you forgot the most important
I
rule.
did, the magic rule. All right, leave your mic where you can see
Do
it.
we have time bound on this review or?
I think we're done with DoggCatcher. We're going to move on now. But yes, we are aware that we have spent a fair amount of time.
We have spent a long time talking about podcast apps in general.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, if we were just gonna gong ourselves after 5 minutes, then the audience would have missed the amazing transitions and handoffs that you and I have obviously spent weeks practicing.
Clearly well rehearsed.
So let's take a look at, help me out here.
Volksempfanger. No, that's not quite right. I missed an N. Volksempfanger. Yes.
There you go.
There you go.
I knew that the foreigner would be able to get that. So, again, very first thing you see when you start up.
A lot of white space.
And yeah.
And it kind of has the podcast icon of shame.
Indeed. So, and okay, I have no subscriptions. Well, let's get a subscription. Fine. Okay, now here's this is a problem. Yeah. I realize I'm shallow. I realize I'm not a good techie. But the truth is, there's a lot of apps that don't make me type in a URL.
You haven't memorized the URLs for all of your favorite podcasts?
I have not. You'd think that I would have. And certainly, I mean, Android has a much better cut and paste functionality than it used to. So
that's true.
But I mean,
think you're gonna have
just
to take a
looking
drink.
at this makes me need to take a drink.
So, while Ian's doing that, I will type in the one podcast that I know.
If you want. The truth is, I and probably most of the people that have looked at this app have already uninstalled
closed it. Yeah. Developers. Live. Podcast. Now you can see from this is actually a pretty easy to remember URL.
Sure.
But it's taken me more time to type this in than I really have patience for. And if I've misspelled this, then it's kind of game over.
I'm pretty much screwed, yeah.
So I've put it in.
Still says we have
It
no
still says we
subscriptions.
have no subscriptions.
Yeah.
And I can look through here and everything is empty. Now we have a spinning, the spinning progress. So we knew something's happening.
Look what's happening. How exciting. We have something in there. I would successfully subscribe to the podcast. I wouldn't have minded seeing some sort of progress indication
Straight
while
away,
waiting
right?
for that.
Yeah. You want to? We've already subscribed. Show us that what we've subscribed to, so that if we're going through like with fingers of lightning, typing in all of the memorized URLs, we at least know what we're up to. We can click through, and otherwise it's.
Oh, that's pretty.
It's a nice, simple UI. So this is something I wanted to highlight for this app in particular. Is compared to some of the others we're going to look at, has a very clean UI. It's very simple, very straightforward, just showing the information that you need, though arguably not enough information. Now, this is where it all gets a little bit weird. For a start, if you keep your eye on this section of the screen, you'll see that there is a checkbox which occasionally flashes in or out. I'm not entirely sure why or how to bring it up consistently, but did you see it there, just for a fraction of a second?
No, I didn't. Let's see one more time.
No, not that time. But again, so we've got this big amount of white screen, and we have a play button, but it's not that it's hidden, but it's not particularly, it doesn't really jump out. So if I was going to try and use this app in my car, I've got a problem right away.
Right. Now, I think that, we can't bash them too hard, because obviously they're thinking, well, I've got an action that I want to take.
Sure.
I'm going to put it on the action bar. And this is a good example of when it's okay to break the rules. There are actions that you're taking on content where the content in the screen is the most important thing. And those actions are far and away best suited to the action bar.
Absolutely.
However, there are some actions that are either extremely contextual, so you put them next to the content, directly next to the content, or so universal that they really don't belong in the action bar because they are themselves the most important thing. And in this case, I would argue that the transport, for any app that plays audio, the transport is the most important thing.
Absolutely.
In fact, it should be on every screen. You never want to be in a position where you can't access the transport, because if nothing else, you might need to pause that audio.
Exactly, and this is a good example. So again, and this is a theme that I'm going to continue to come back to time and time again, which is I want the app to start doing what I downloaded it for as quickly as possible. Ideally, as soon as I click the icon, open the app, it will start doing something. In this case, playing me some kind of audio. Here, I've had to add a subscription, then navigate into that, and then navigate into a particular thing, and then hit play before it's actually going to start that playback, at which point it does introduce the controls along the bottom, which is nice. They are absolutely
really
tiny,
Yeah.
Which makes me think Well, I was going to say, it makes me think this was designed for a phone, but we have the tablet layout with fragments, so they're halfway there. And I get the impression, I think this is even an alpha release, so it's early days for them, but you definitely want to consider straight away, as Ian just pointed out, these need to be big buttons, they need to be front and center. This is the key to what your app is doing.
Right.
So to increase those size. While we're talking about the transport mechanism, because I think this is a good point, and I want to talk a little bit more about that. If we switch to the camera phone, or the phone camera, I should say, then we should be able to look at some of these apps on a phone. And I'm going to do that because I want to highlight a couple of specific things. So if I start playing an app here in DoggCatcher, there's a few things I'm going to look for straight away. So as soon as I navigate away from that app, I still want to be able to control that audio from anywhere. So the first thing I'm going to check is to see whether or not I can control it on the lock screen.
And you can.
Which I can, which is nice. We even have the album art, which is tidy, have the ability to pause, play, skip, although again, skip doesn't actually do anything in this instance. And that, it does it is tricky. It's like I want to be able to skip this if I'm getting bored and listen to either the next podcast in that particular album, or skip to a completely different podcast if if that's the better option.
Makes sense.
So let's unlock this. I also want to be able to do that in the notifications, and again, this is something that the DoggCatcher has done well, so I can actually pause directly from the notification. Now, you'll note that by doing so, they've actually removed the notification straight away.
Right, which is a little weird.
It is a little weird. Now, this is kind of tricky, right? Because the reason the notification is there when it's playing is because you need an ongoing notification if you have a service running, and when I've paused it, that service isn't running, so let's take it away.
Sure.
Thing is, give me a chance here. Maybe I just paused it because I want to yell at someone out the window who cut me off, and I want to be able to press play again straight away. And you'll note that it's gone from everywhere. So if I go back to the lock screen, again, there's no way to restart the audio until I reopen the app. And so
so it
it's a little
wasn't a
too
pause.
aggressive.
It was an abort.
Exactly. It's a big red button, and that's too aggressive.
Well, this would be great if they used Jelly Bean Rich notifications, because then they can give you that choice. I mean, maybe you did just want to kill the whole thing when you clicked on that notification that didn't have any indication of what it was going to do at all.
Exactly.
But if you didn't, in general, we suggest that when you make a notification, if it doesn't have any other UI, if it doesn't have a rich UI associated with it, the natural thing is when you click on it, you should bring up the activity that's firing the notification to begin with.
Absolutely.
And that should always be your default. You shouldn't do anything else, really, unless you have, like we said, rich notification UI a la Jelly Bean.
Let's just have a quick look if DoggCatcher has a widget, and it does. And so this is the last thing, and
that's cool.
They've done a good job there. So they have maintained those transport mechanisms throughout every part of the UI, of the system UI. So that's definitely a thumbs up for DoggCatcher. Not all of the apps that we looked at do any of those, let alone all of them.
Excellent.
Should we have a look at another app?
Absolutely. Why don't we go ahead and go to BeyondPod, which is another one that gets a lot of good recommendations.
Absolutely.
Now, it turns out that this is, or has been, one of my go-to podcast apps, although probably because it's the least frustrating of all the frustrations I've encountered.
Okay. That's high praise.
Well,
You're setting that high bar.
yeah. So this is an interesting UI. So it goes from feed to player. There should also be, let's see, so you've got a categorized list. It turns out actually the developers are very responsive. This is actually a different UI than I used, just last week.
Oh, wow,
the last
excellent.
time I used this. So they've done categorization in here, which is cool, but again, a little weird and difficult to use in the car.
Yes,
Very
absolutely.
difficult.
This is a good example where you want to have a big UI with big buttons that you can just press, which have pictures which indicate what they are, so you don't need to think or read or navigate or worry about touching the wrong bit. It's just bang, bang, bang.
Indeed. Now, I have to compliment these guys on doing a much better job than the first version of BeyondPod that I downloaded, where the initial set of categories was on a view pager, and the second page was the detail of whatever category
I see.
Then the third page was a detail of the feed you'd selected, and then the fourth page was, I think, the now playing. And paging between the view pager did all sorts of really wacky things. It was very, very... It was a departure from what you would expect a view pager
Yeah,
to
you don't
do.
want the view pager to ever maintain any sort of state, apart from where you've scrolled to in any particular list view.
Yep. So let's go ahead and start. Now this is one thing that's a little interesting. They do RSS as well as actual audio podcasts.
Sure.
So this is an RSS feed. Let's see if we can find one that's actually an audio. Global
Let's go with the
News by
BBC. Yeah.
should have it. So this is interesting. They do streaming, which is really, really nice. But I will say the one thing that's been extremely frustrating to me about using BeyondPod is that we try to stream, but we don't always have a connection. And BeyondPod, if you don't have a good connection, will download. It will play downloaded stuff, but it will try to phone home first. So there are cases where I have completely downloaded a podcast, but because the player can't make a connection, it won't play.
That's very frustrating. And it's the same sort of rage-inducing anger that you get when you want to play a game which you've paid the license for, you've played it before, totally works, but because you happen to be on an airplane wanting to play Angry Birds or Asphalt 7 for a few hours in between here in Honolulu, you can't because you can't get a Wi-Fi connection.
Exactly.
It's also worth pointing out here as well, when you're doing buffering and streaming in general, it is a good technique, but you need to also be careful to be doing it the right way to make sure that you're not draining the battery just for the sake of having these sorts of downloads. And so one of the best practices which we try and point out is that you should have enough content for the foreseeable future use of this app. And so if you're listening to things like podcasts, you probably want to pre-buffer the entire episode, and you may even want to think about getting whatever's next on the queue as well. So they don't just happen to be, there's a set of lights on Charleston, which is in a cell tower dead zone. So if I happen to get to that stop, and it's a long intersection, you're there for a few minutes. If I get there and a song stops, I run out of song, depending on the app I'm using, I'm screwed. It's sitting there going, I'll get to it eventually, and it's not until I'm on the freeway that I get that.
I think you should have a strategy for dealing with that. Not just buffering up what you think you're going to need, but maybe falling back to something old or whatever.
Absolutely.
Now what you're seeing on the screen now is my face, but if you were seeing the tablet, there you go. This is my other pet peeve, and this is not limited to BeyondPod. There's actually a few other players that do this. I tried to skip forward, and it said the playlist is empty. Now, it's interesting because I got to this by going to the BBC and choosing the first episode.
Absolutely.
If I skip forward after that, based on your extensive knowledge of iPods or Sony Walkman or
Discmans.
Music players of any stripe, what would you expect to happen at that point?
I'd kind of expected to play the next episode.
Right. Yeah, that is also what I expected. Yeah. However, no, it will not play that because I don't have anything in the playlist. Now, the interesting thing is, having been a BeyondPod customer for about 6 months now, bought BeyondPod Pro, I have absolutely no idea how to add anything to the playlist. I have no clue.
That's how angry he is.
Exactly.
He is ripping the mic off his lapel angry.
What's even worse is that, now they don't say it here, so maybe they've changed it, but the version I originally used called it the Smart Playlist, which implied that it had some sort of intelligence. It might do something for me. But apparently,
does it imply that, Ian, or does it imply that you need to be smart to use the playlist?
I think what it's saying is it's just smart enough to know that it doesn't need to listen to me.
The self-aware playlist.
It will not serve.
I'd like to go to the next
me
trap.
As a master.
I'm sorry, I can't do that, Ian.
Exactly. So, to wrap up a bit, some of the other things that we looked at include Good News, which has some really nice features, but suffers from many of the same feedback problems that we've talked about. In particular, it's possible to get Good News into a state where you have to just sit there staring at a screen waiting for it to do something, and it is giving you very little idea of what it's doing. especially, this is especially frustrating because I have, let's say, 2,500 unread articles in my Google Reader account, which, good news to its credit, links up with very, very easily. It will say I've synced 100 articles. I can't read those articles. I can't see them. All I can see is the thing that says you got to wait until all 2,500. So you might think about whether or not that's a good user experience. Listen Up is promising, a little rough.
Yeah, that's definitely early.
Made no impression on me whatsoever. Hipstacast
Did that leave an impression?
a terrible icon. It looks fine on this screen because it's against this kind of cloudy background. Put it against anything else. The problem is it just doesn't have enough contrast, so it's very, very easy to get to blend in the background.
Sure.
So why don't we finish up by just taking a look at Pocket Casts, which, for all its sins, is probably one of the best that we've looked at. This is probably going to be my go-to podcast.
This is going to be your go-to podcast app? Is it going to be your go-to podcast app on a tablet?
I have no idea. Haven't used it on a tablet. Wouldn't use it on a tablet.
No.
I don't carry that around in my...
Well, I've been contemplating this because I have a spare Nexus 7. That's right. You're all jealous. And I've been trying to figure out how I can mount it to the dashboard of my Prius, because I work for Google, so I have a Prius. But all of the surfaces
And you're insufferable.
Well, this is true. I went to the dealership. I'm like, I need a car. And after 10 minutes of talking to me, they knew exactly what they needed to give me. But all the surfaces, the surfaces on the inside are exactly the same as the surfaces on the outside. So there's nothing flat. Everything is curved and rounded, so there's nowhere I can stick the device to actually to mount it in my car. So I don't know, but that would be an instance of if you have a car with slightly squarer edges. I have the impression that many American cars have quite straight edges inside the car.
Oh no, that's a myth perpetuated by
Europeans,
certain political establishments.
I see. Well, if the
Everything in
man
America is
won't
straight.
let me have straight surfaces in the car, then I guess it's a non-issue. But I always thought that would be quite useful.
So this is something that we never like to see.
Yeah.
Hi there. It's like in the Hitchhiker's Guide where it says, I'm going to press this button. Oh, what did it do? A sign lit up saying, please do not press this button again. All this is saying is, yeah, by the way, don't press that button.
Yeah.
Not yet anyway.
Shouldn't have pressed that
Do
button.
something else. Press a different button. I think this is a programmer thing, right? Because compilers will be like, oh yeah, did you mean to put a semicolon there?
Yeah.
And what do new programmers always say? Well, it knows that I needed a
Why
semicolon.
did it just
Why
put
did
it
it
there?
just put the semicolon
You don't need
there?
to tell me it's not there.
Right. You should be more magical than C++. That's all I'm saying. So if we wanted to have a podcast, I guess we click on the library icon. And this is the really frustrating thing, is once I've clicked on the library icon, absolutely nothing happens.
It's pretty much it's a pretty
Basically,
black screen now.
Mr. Headphone icon is full of... I'm taking a
You're
drink.
taking a drink.
I think what we actually have to do is do a search.
Uh-huh.
And this is nice. So we got some popular podcasts. That's good. A browse category. I mean, the discoverability here is much, much better.
Yeah, this is more like
than most.
it. Ooh.
Now, Roman Nurek would go ballistic
Yeah, I
at this
think
point.
he's gone so angry that he's fallen off the Hangout. That's out of
Indeed.
his chair and off the internet.
Yep. Now, we're out of time,
It's true.
but we're going to keep going anyway.
That's right.
So
The only people we're interrupting is you.
the reason that Roman Nurek would be mad about this, just drinking mad,
Yeah.
which doesn't take much because he's Russian, but
Ukrainian, I think. I think you made a
so
you
sorry.
made a
That is
mistake there.
Huge faux pas.
Yeah.
I am so sorry. All right.
We're not going to point out who he's apologizing to here. It could be the Russians, it could be the Ukrainians, it could be Roman, it could be anyone,
It's
frankly.
really just Roman and everyone else.
And everyone else.
I'm
Roman
so,
and everyone.
So sorry. Well, no, I'm apologizing to everyone except the person who put this god-awful gradient background on this list view. Okay.
This actually reminds me of a demo. Do you remember the demo scene from, like, I guess it was the late 90s? Where you had like a 64K demo where you'd have like awesome graphic stuff done within 64K. And one of the cool things you could do was these gradients, and they would shift and change and move. We're not in the 90s anymore.
That's quite true. Now, if we were, he would be Millie and I would be Vanilli, and we're not.
Yeah, and you can only be thankful for that.
The other thing that we object to, that Roman objects to, I don't know
This
how I
isn't
feel
us.
about
This is
but
just Roman. Yeah.
is these little right arrows here.
Oh, the right carrots. Yeah, I'm not a fan of those at all.
Yeah, nobody is.
Oh, and particularly when they get stretched in this way. That's not.
That's
not
a
cool.
beautiful, beautiful thing. Okay, well, let's not be too harsh. Let's just choose something. This Sesame Street podcast. I mean,
Sweet.
That's got to be completely.
Well, if that doesn't
innocuous,
put you in
right?
a good mood, I don't know what will.
And I'll just hit the back button here. Nice, that worked. Oh no,
You're out. Also, I should point out that you hitting the back button, the fact that worked is nice, but the fact that there's no other way to navigate back from that deep nested thing to the bit where you get to play, it's kind of irritating.
Well, yeah, in the sense that if I had a real action bar with navigational hints, I would be able to navigate directly rather than hitting a button 5 times.
Yeah, exactly.
But speaking of hitting that button, if I go here and start one of these things going, and then press this little magic button, it's going to show me this. And then, now I don't know if it'll do this on the tablet, but on the phone, hitting the back button on that just quit the app completely.
Yeah.
It doesn't do that on the tablets. That's cool. They have kind of a nice UI where this skips forward 30 seconds, this skips back 10 seconds.
And I can see that it's actually a video cast because we can see that's being displayed.
Oh, and which is a good thing to point out because it means that they can't see
the rest of
that
what
I'm
you're doing. That's right. So we're back now.
But so we're going to have to do just one more depth into this. One of these needs to be okay. Greg Proops never has video, so we'll go ahead and use Greg Proops.
Hit the back button a few
Hit the
times.
back button several times. I don't mind. I'm a back button hitter. Maybe
too many.
one too many times. So we'll go to the Smartest Man in the World podcast. Notice it's going to play immediately.
Well,
wonderful. Well,
immediately once it's finished
buffering.
buffering.
Yeah. Okay. Now you can see this. So on the right-hand side of the screen, 30 seconds skip forward.
Yeah, I really like that.
Left-hand side, 10 seconds back. That's awesome.
What did he just say?
Now, if I click here, what's it going to do?
wants to
That's
skip.
actually skipping forward. Why would I need that? This is skipping forward? No, wait. This whole side of the screen was skipping forward.
Absolutely.
What I really want when I hit this is to go to the next podcast.
The next track, yeah,
There
absolutely.
is no way to go to the next track. Which
intriguing.
annoys me no end because sometimes I just get a podcast that's really boring.
Exactly. If this was a podcast, this may be the time where you'd want to skip ahead.
Wouldn't you be saying to yourself, God, I wish I could just press a button and skip directly to the Friday review of
Exactly.
games.
I've skipped 30 seconds,
Plenty
15,
of
20
people.
times now. I'm just done. I want to get to the good stuff.
By the way, Reto's not talking about a podcast player. He's talking about his life, and he does it with drugs. Anyway, so to sum up, Pocket Cast is a great app functionally. The UI does not look like it's designed for Android. It looks like it, I think it took some cues from maybe a different system, one that's a little
be.
more bubbly and rounded than ours.
A little bit like my Prius.
And that shows up in the reviews. People
Absolutely.
complain about that. It's the same way, if you bought that other phone and you got an app that looked just like an Android app, you'd probably...
Absolutely. You'd be similarly frustrated. It's creating that magic. You want to open the app and feel like you're at home, feel like it's part of the ecosystem, part of the system that you're running. You open this app, and straight away you are wondering what phone you have. How does this work? How do I get to do different things? How do I navigate? All of those things, which, as a developer who maybe owns a different kind of phone, it's obvious to you. Oh, I know how this works. You tab across the top here, and refresh icon is always here. But for typical Android users, it's going to be hostile. It's a hostile environment, and that's what you want to avoid.
But at least I can arrange my podcasts and episodes and look at everything without having to delve through multiple categories. But of all the things that we've looked at today, we haven't seen anything that does podcast playing nearly as well as just a simple music player.
Absolutely. And it's interesting that, when I've asked people about their favorite podcast player, one of the most frequent responses I get is people asking, I really wish Google Music just integrated podcasts. And I think that's an opportunity for people because Google Music, the player, is not a particularly fancy implementation.
It's just
pretty
normal.
Straight up, right? It's just standard.
It's white bread.
It is totally white bread. And a lot of these apps, we haven't delved into the details of what a lot of these apps do, because they do a lot of things, they have a lot of functionality that's really great and really important for podcasting, but they don't do the basics as well as they could. And I think that's the take-home piece of advice that I'd give you guys who are developing these sorts of apps is get the basics right. Get that first screen when I open it up and I just want to start listening to a podcast. Make all of that as simple, as clean, as easy as it can be. And then everything else, that's all a bonus. That's what makes you better than all the other apps.
Let's put up the Angry Baby for 15
Absolutely.
more seconds. Just say, look, these aren't things that we walked in thinking all podcast apps should do. This is something we wrote this morning after sitting down with 12 different podcast apps, trying to make them work, trying to make them fit our lifestyle, and ultimately deciding that none of them were actually what we wanted. So make that podcast app. You got my dollars. I'll pay. I would pay $20.
I should point out as well that these podcast apps, at least 2 or 3 of these were paid apps between sort of $1 and $5, and people will pay $5 for an app if it does everything that they want it to do.
Any day of the week, absolutely. All right, so we have to go get Dan Galpin out of his cage and lay down the protective sheets along our camera here to make sure that he doesn't spit all over it. So we've got a lot of work to do before the Friday review of games starts. So Reto, I think we should sign off.
We should. Thank you very much for joining us this week, Ian.
Absolutely.
Hopefully we'll see you again in the future. Thank you especially to Fred and Daniel for helping us out behind the camera. We're going to be back next week, same time, 1 o'clock on Friday. I think we're going to be looking at finance apps next week. Is that right, Fred? Finance apps? I think so. So do make sure that you put your nominations for finance apps that you've used and you'd like us to take a look at in the moderator page. And we will see you again same time next week. Thank you for watching.